and in this video I'm going to show you how to use my Twitter bot called Bluebot. So what is Bluebot? Bluebot basically allows you to automate your Twitter activity but on a mass scale. So you're tweeting, you're following, you're unfollowing, you're pinning, you're retweeting and so on. Over time, this will build you an audience to market your products and services to thousands of people. At the moment, I've got it running with 100 accounts and I'm getting about 1,000 followers a day. Now, botting and automation of tasks like this has a bit of a bad reputation, and rightly so. Some people are very aggressive with how they use bots and other automation software on social networks. The trick to building large audiences on Twitter is really simple. Just don't annoy people and don't annoy Twitter. Now when I say don't annoy people, I mean don't tweet the same tweet again and again and again, and don't just promote your own products. Try to actually add some value to their timeline with your tweets, because then your accounts will grow naturally as well. Things like tweeting directly at hundreds of people a day in an automated way is just going to get your accounts banned before you've even got 100 followers. And when I say don't annoy Twitter, don't do any sort of activity too fast in an automated way that's going to obviously annoy people, because their systems will notice that very quickly. And even if people don't report you for spamming, their systems will watch your activity over a set duration of time, and they'll pick up on what you're doing and they'll ban your accounts. And they won't just ban one, they'll ban all of them that they can find. So treat your accounts like a long-term investment that you're slowly growing. Okay, so in this how to use video, I'll start off on the home tab here and work my way through these, explaining what each one's for. So when you click home, you'll get basically a dashboard with all your activity, any errors that have occurred, any important notices like locked accounts suspended, or ones that have been challenged for an email as well. In here you can also stop all events that are currently running, and you can also enable and disable all the events you have scheduled as well. So this is the accounts page. This is where you manage your accounts, where you add and import them. I'll just show you how to add an account now. So that's pre-populated with just some test data. So you enter your account handle there, the email address for that account, and then the password to that account. And normally you'd have a drop down and your proxies there. Because we haven't added any yet, we also don't have any. Just save that. And you can see that account is now there. Stats, that's how many you're following, how many followers you have. Status, that's whether the account is locked or suspended or anything like that. Visit, if you click that, you can open it will take your browser to the account and basically deletes it. And you can change any of these account information at any point by clicking the manage cog and saving any changes. If you do have a large amount of pre-existing accounts, you can use the import accounts feature. Just make sure that you do have them in this set format, or it will moan. Make sure it's username : email : password. Okay, so this is the manual tab. You can either tweet, you can either run events manually through here. And when I say manually, I mean you set it up in here and then you run it and then it's kind of forgotten. Or you can set tasks up as scheduled, so you kind of set them to run every half an hour or every day at 3 or whatever. Most of the time you'll set things up as scheduled tasks so that you have it's kind of a set and forget configuration. And so you just want to fire off a tweet, one-off tweet across all your accounts. You probably do that as a manual action in here. So I'll show you how to tweet to begin with before we go through these other options. Now before you tweet anything, you need to configure your tweets, add your tweets into the system. So if you go to resources down here, this is where you add a single tweet, and then if you want you can add it into a tweet pool. So I'll show you how to add a single tweet, and then I'll show you how to add it into a pool, and then I'll explain why you want to do that. So let's just stick anything here. You can also use Spintax for those of you that are familiar with it. So we've now added a single tweet. You can see I've added a few more in there before. So if we go back to the manual tab, we've got tweet selected, and if we want to tweet a single tweet, we can now select that tweet we just added and then assign it to an account and click run now, and then that will begin that manual action. Now also what we can do is rather than just having hundreds of scheduled tasks or manual or hundreds of tasks that set up for each individual tweet, you can just have one task, manual or scheduled or whatever, configured to tweet out of a tweet pool. So every time you put a tweet in, if you want, you can assign it to a tweet pool and then say, tweet something out of this tweet pool. So I've already created a pool, so let's click test pool, spelled incorrectly. Tweets available. So I haven't added this one to the pool yet, but you can see I've added the other ones in there. So click that, add to pool. So now we can go back to the manual tab, and we want to tweet a random tweet from the pool, and then we specify that pool that we just added the single tweet to, click the account name, and then click run now, and then that'll go off and it'll tweet a random tweet from that pool of tweets. Okay, so next up is follow. There are two types of follow you can do. You can follow another account's followers. So say for example you want to grow your Ferrari Twitter account, and then you could set it to follow the followers of the official Ferrari account, or another high performance car, popular big high performance car account. So I don't know, we'll stick something there, Top Gear, and you just put them in a line separated format. And then we've got the amount of followers that we want to follow per run for each account. So every time you create this manual task or you create a scheduled task, you'll set how many followers each account that you assign it to will follow per run, and that's the total amount of followers for all of these accounts. So every time it runs, that account it runs on will only follow a maximum of 10 people. So once you've got that configured how you want it, just click run now, and that should start doing it. So the other type of follow that we have is follow from tweeted keywords. So whenever anyone tweets about a car, I don't know, Benz or something, then we'll follow the people tweeting about that, whatever niche, whatever term you enter in there. And again, the amount of followers per run, that's all the same. You just select the account and run it in the same way again. Okay, so next up we have unfollowing. So you'll probably want to go with the unfollow non-followers after set time option. That just unfollows anyone who hasn't followed back after a certain amount of time. Default's 3 days. That's pretty standard, pretty safe. The other option is to basically just unfollow everyone who's not following you, regardless of when you followed them. Okay, so next we have retweet. So you can retweet by a tweet ID. So you can go off and say scroll down someone's Twitter page and then find the tweet ID and enter it in there, and then select the account you want to apply to and run it, and that'll go off and retweet that specific tweet. Or you can just retweet the last tweet that account made. Just enter the account in there, click run, click the ones you want it to, and it'll go off and do that. Okay, so next we have pin. You can pin by a account's specific tweet ID. So if this test account name here tweeted a certain tweet that you want to pin a week ago, just scroll down its profile and find the tweet ID in HTML and then enter it in there, and then that account will pin that tweet. Or you can just pin by the last tweet that account made. Obviously, if you want to apply this action event to a set of accounts at once, then you'll have to do it by the pin the account's last tweet. Okay, so now we have tweet image. Now the same principle applies here with tweet pools, as in the normal text tweets that I discussed earlier. So you can either tweet a single image, or you can select a random image from a tweet pool as well. I'll just show you where these are. So you go to resources, single tweet images. You can add tweet images in here, and then once you've added them, you click tweet pools, and you can manage which tweet images are in which tweet image pools. So select whether you want a single one or to tweet from the pool, and then select which accounts you want to apply it to, and then click run. Okay, so now we're on to the scheduled tab. This is where you set up the events that you want to run at set times or set frequencies, and this is probably what you'll be using most of the time if you want a proper set and forget configuration. So we want to create a new scheduled event. Now we've already done the manual tab, so you should kind of be familiar with how you set up these tasks. So I'll just quickly do the tweet one again. So you select tweet, whether you want a single tweet, which one you want, and then which account you wanted to apply it to, or accounts. You can apply it to them all if you want. If you've got 100 in there, or you can select tweet from a tweet pool and then select which pool you're going to use. So, so to set up how often you want it to run or when, you can either have it at set intervals. So which is probably what you want really, every hour. Say you want to tweet something every hour, just select an hour, 0 minutes. Now if you want it to run in an hour, then leave that unticked. If you want it to run as soon as you add the event, the moment you click add event, then tick that. If you want to add it in, but have it disabled for any reason, then just untick that is event enabled. So now that once we click add event, that will run every hour tweeting on this account from that tweet pool. If you want a event task to run at a specific time, then you select when, I don't know, 1 PM, and select specific time instead of set interval, and it'll run at that time. Okay, so we clicked add event, and there it is in our list of scheduled events. We can disable it anytime we like, we can delete it anytime. That's when it last ran, that's how many accounts you've assigned it to, and that's whether it's a event that runs at a set time or set intervals. If you want to change it anytime, just click the change cog and make any changes you want. Change it to a single tweet, and then save it, and that will be updated. Okay, so proxies. You will need proxies if you want to run a decent amount of accounts, and I would say it depends how many people you're following. The quickest way to grow an account is through follow churning, but really if Twitter thinks you are doing that, they will ban your account, especially if you're churning a lot of followers from a lot of accounts that are on very few IP addresses. Personally, I would go with 2 accounts per proxy, and just be really conservative with your following and unfollowing. As I said before, I honestly believe the best way to be successful with these kind of automated software is to treat your accounts like long-term investments and just grow them gently and try to actually add value to your followers' timelines. Give them things that they're actually genuinely interested, and they will actually retweet and like, and your accounts will grow naturally. And also, if you're not annoying people, you're not going to get banned, and you can do a little bit of churning and get away with it. Okay, so you can add them manually in there. Just enter a testing. If you require a username and password to use that proxy, then enter it there, otherwise don't enter them and it won't attempt to use one. So once we've added it, we can delete it there. If you're probably going to want to import them rather than add them one by one. So we have a little import feature here. Now they have to be in this set format so that the program understands them. So if you're importing with a password, make sure it's IP address, port, username, password, separated by a semicolon. If no password is required, then it's IP address, colon, port. So when you import, you can replace the current list or you can append to the current list. Quite a handy feature here is when you import your proxies, if you have that ticked, then it will remove all the proxies you have set on your accounts currently, and it will distribute these proxies evenly over the accounts you have in the Accounts tab here. Okay, so Resources tab, we kind of already covered this. Basically you add a single tweet in here. You can use spin tags, so whenever this tweet comes to be tweeted, it will select one of these two words inside here. Has to be in this set format, so it has to be bracket, first word, pipe, second word. You can add multiple ones if you want, and that will tell you there tweet is 50 characters max. That's how many tweets it would be if every longest word was selected. So we can put a shorter word in here, and that won't change, but then when we get to a longer word there, you see that will begin to increment. So yeah, once you add a single tweet, it goes into the system, and then as we saw before, you can add it on the manual page or the schedule page. If you've got loads of tweets already that you want to import, you can import them straight into a pool. Just make sure you've got a tweet pool already created. The same principle applies for image tweets really. You add them, and then they can either be treated as single, just single, or you can add them to a pool, and then you can access them still as single tweet, image tweets, but you can also access the pool that they're in. And finally, the event log. So every time your account does something, it'll appear in the event log here. If there's an error, it'll appear in the error log here. Don't worry too much about connection errors. I found because you're sending a lot of requests through a lot of proxies, you will get some dropped connections. Don't panic. It doesn't mean your account's been blocked if you can't log in or something. Just run it again. Chances are it'll probably go through. The home page here will always give you a good indication of whether there's any real problems with the accounts locked, suspended and challenged at last login. Don't be too alarmed if you get a lot of accounts challenged. All that is when you create an account from an IP address in, I don't know, America, and then you get your proxies, load them in, log in, or attempt to log in, and one of those proxies belongs to, I don't know, some Russian provider or something. Twitter will be like, "Oh, hang on, you're logging in from the other side of the world. Is this really you?" And it'll ask you to enter your email address to confirm that it is you. So your account's not in any trouble. It's just a security measure from their end. Okay, so just finally, I'll just click these settings here. Now you can, as I showed you before, you can specify account follow limits here. Now if you want, you can just leave it at that and kind of work out in your head how many people that's going to follow if you run that 5 times a day and it's following 10 people at a time. But sometimes every run it might not find 10 people who you haven't already followed or something. So what you can do is, and what I do is, I set a daily follow limit per account here. So that means every account you have in the system, you won't follow more than 200 people per day. I mean, that's actually quite a high setting. Personally, I knock it down to like 80 or something. Only ever follow a user once globally. So if you've got a ton of accounts in the system, and you've got them all under the same task and they're all following the same accounts, people may begin to get annoyed if if you've got 100 accounts and they follow the same people constantly. So if you've got 100 accounts and you follow someone who's just followed the Ferrari thing, and they get 100 notifications of all from accounts with you've been followed by these accounts and they've all got the same tweets and stuff, that kind of annoys people. So I always use this option here, so you won't follow the same person more than once from any account you have in the system. So yeah, next option, limit number of scrolls through an account's followers when unfollowing. So as your accounts grow, when we unfollow people, we basically scroll down your following page to unfollow people who aren't following. But as you amass more and more followers and you follow more and more people, those pages begin to get quite big. So if you've got 100, 200 accounts in the system and they're all scrolling down these 200 accounts following pages, then that can be quite resource intensive. So what I do is I limit that number of scrolls. So if you put an account in with like 100,000 followers and it's following 100,000 people, you don't want to scroll down all the way through that 100,000 people you're following to check that they're all still following you back. You can if you want, but it will just take a very long time. You might find scheduled tasks are overlapping and things like that because it's taken so long to work its way through all those people you're following to check each of them. So I generally limit that to around 100 or something. Okay, so that's it. Hope you've enjoyed the video and you feel competent enough now to use it. Like I said, it's a great tool. You can amass a lot of followers quickly, and that will generate you a lot of traffic. As I said before, just treat each account in the system as a long-term investment, because that's the beauty of Twitter versus other social networks, is that you can have 500,000 people following you. You can't really do that with Facebook or LinkedIn or anything. So just grow them slowly, don't annoy people, try and tweet something of value for them, and you'll end up with a lot of followers generating a lot of traffic. So that's it.